room. Let me know if you can hear us. I hope it's working. If not, then we're fucked. No Aqua. No Aqua.
No, Aqua, you gotta pick a character. We can't do this. We can't do it if you don't pick a character.
Shut the fuck up. I hate you.
You gotta look at the matchups, Aqua.
No. Well, yeah, actually, we do have to look at the matchups. That is what the stream is.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. Chat says they can hear us. So for context, people in the Discord submitted a bunch of matchups for me and Goated Ecto over here to talk about, and that's what the stream's just gonna be. So maybe longer than the average stream, maybe shorter. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how much we'll have to say about every matchup, but hopefully a good amount. Yeah.
At least 12 paragraphs per matchup.
Yeah, at least 12. I think we already got a pretty good one to start off with. Ecto, what do you think of Iron Lad versus Brainiac 5, Marvel versus DC?
I would consider myself pretty knowledgeable about, like, the more D and E list Marvel and DC characters that I would know more than most, like, casual comic fans would know. I have no clue who the fuck either of these characters are.
I know Iron Lad's like the like he was on the Young Avengers and he's like an alternate version of Kang, I think. Brainiac 5, I don't know. That sounds made up.
I mean, at that point, just a regular Krang versus Brainiac sounds more like anything.
Yeah, that sounds at least like something, yeah. Sorry to all two Brainiac 5 fans. I don't think Brainiac 5 is gonna be on Realm of Gods or any versus show, probably. I don't think... Moving on. We got Bane versus Kraven the Hunter.
Now, I see the vision with this matchup. I think it's pretty cool. Basically hunting down Batman and Spider-Man just to prove they can for the fucking, like, cred of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the matchup I want to do, but I definitely want to do a matchup on Realm of Gods with some Spider-Man Rogues Gallery character.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that'd be fun. I just...
that's something crazy to me that Death Battle hasn't done yet, is they haven't really tapped into Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery outside of Carnage and then Venom twice, and it's like the symbiotes are a little samey anyway.
Yeah, it's very weird they've... Yeah, I mean, yeah, they should have done Joker, Green Goblin, really, but, you know.
Have to go to Dr. Coctopus.
Dr. Coctopus. I think my main problem with this one is just, like, I don't know how a fight between the two of them would go. Because my main image of Bane in my head is, like, the Arkham games where he's like, oh, I'm big, angry, I'm Bane, and I break things. He's, like, a very physical fighter. Kraven's also physical, but he's a lot more, like trap-based, I guess, in the sense that, like, a lot of his stuff is, like, poison, or he has, like, a little net. So I don't... Maybe Comic Bane has, like, more big stuff, I guess, but I don't know. That's kind of my big thing. I just don't know how a fight between the two would go.
Yeah. I think there are definitely fights between even members of their respective Rogues Galleries that are a little more interesting in how they'd play out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I agree. Okay.
What do you think of Harry Warden versus the Prowler?
No series. So for all we know, this is just some random people. I think the first.
Oh, I know these characters.
I don't know who the second guy is, but isn't the first guy from that one movie with about the Valentine's Day thing?
Yeah, My Bloody Valentine. That's Harry Warden, which I think has 2 original movies and a remake, and then the Prowler I think only had 1 movie, and it was a clear, like, sort of homage to My Bloody Valentine. I definitely see the comparison. I think it's interesting to like compare the 2 movies in a vacuum. I don't know how we would make this fight very interesting, especially because, like, as far as killers go, these 2 aren't that supernatural and don't like do that much cool. It really is mostly just the Prowler's pitchfork and Harry Warden's pickaxe. That's kind of all they've got going for them. Which, like, to be fair, Jason and Michael, I guess, have similarly limited things, but they've got, like, powers and shit. And, like, scenes to draw from. This feels like it's pretty low on the list, I would say, of like
Of priority.
slasher matchups I would be super interested in.
I mean, I haven't seen either of the movies, obviously. I feel like My Bloody Valentine would be interesting. I know there's that one movie like called Hard Eyes or whatever that came out this year, or it was like last year, but it's also like a Valentine's Day themed horror movie. I think that'd be kind of cool to compare against Harry, if anything. But I don't know. That's kind of my main thing. I don't know either character that well.
We gotta do Uncle Sam from that one Uncle Sam horror movie versus dude from fucking Silent Night, Deadly Night.
That's a good idea.
Garbage Day.
Garbage Day. Moving on. This is one I really like. Garfield versus Hello Kitty.
I think this one's pretty funny. I'm sure that they both have enough in like the deeper recesses of their media output to make this match completely fucking absurd. I know Kitty's got a mech.
Kitty has like that whole Gundam thing that happens where she just like shows up for some reason. No, I've been looking into Hello Kitty stuff. A lot of their stuff is just weird because Sanrio doesn't really have a canon, which isn't that surprising. But they do some weird fucking shit in Sanrio media. I feel like Garfield's definitely like heavily researched already by a lot of people in the community that I feel like it'd be pretty easy to look into him.
I mean, maybe. That said, Garfield has so much fucking media that I'm sure like most of what people have looked into, I'm sure is like the
comics, yeah, or the cartoons. What's funny is both of these characters have kart games, although I would argue Garfield Kart is probably a really not a really good game, but it's at least like a passable game. The Hello Kitty racing games kind of suck ass, but you know, you can't win all of them.
Let's not fucking glaze Garfield Kart in public.
I'm just saying it's better in comparison to fucking the Hello Kitty one.
Better than M&M racers.
But I do think this fight would be fun. Definitely a lot of media to like look into and think about for both. We got Fanboy and Chum versus Robot and Monster.
What a preposterous idea.
Yeah, this is not fucking happening. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Why would
who would ever do a matchup like this?
Who would give a shit about Robot and Monster in 2025? Or Fanboy? No, Fanboy and Chum has like fucking memes on that side, I guess. But who gives a fuck about Robot and Monster?
Well, Robot and Monster have the quirky bacon. Come on.
They do. Ducko would like this episode.
That's true. You know what? That may have sold it. We got to do it for Ducko.
I think we got to do it for Ducko. They've changed my mind. We got Cress Albane versus Chrono. I haven't played either of these games. I know Tales of is like a series in general.
I know the Tales series. I've played Zestiria. That's the one that I own, and I know a bit about like Berseria and Symphonia. I don't know that I've heard the name Tales of Fantasia. I don't know who Cress is, and if we were gonna use Chrono, Isaac Goldensun sounds more interesting to me.
I agree with that. I probably should get around to playing Chrono Trigger. I don't know. I'm not huge into a lot of RPG games, but Chrono Trigger feels like one that you probably need to get into.
JRPGs are definitely like huge time sinks, and like if you have a low attention span, it's gonna be fucking torturous, especially because it's like, I don't know, my favorite franchise is Pokemon. I absolutely love those games. I can play through those no problem, and I'm like, let me replay Persona 4. It's been a while, and then I get past like Yukiko's Palace, and then I'm like, oh, hey, look, every other game I own. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way. Side tangent, but I also kind of felt that way about the new Persona 3 remake. Like, it's a good game, but Persona 5 kept my interest throughout and, like, kept my attention span the entire time. Because a lot of Persona 5's, like, stuff is very, like, flashy and, I think the general concept of Persona 5 is more interesting than both 4 and 3. But 3 especially, like, it's a good game, and I revisit it every now and then, just to continue it, but I can't fucking finish that game. It's just very long. It doesn't keep the same appeal as 5 does for me.
The big thing that I've heard is definitely that, like, the first half is not bad, but it can definitely be, like, a fucking slog to get through. and then the second half is like actual peak fiction for the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay,
Which is a tough sell.
Side tangent aside, Mr. Wolf versus Carmen Sandiego.
I see the vision, but Carmen Sandiego versus Where's Waldo will always have a place in my heart.
I agree with that. I think Mr. Wolf would be fun. I've seen the first Bad Guys, and I thought it was all right. It was all right. I wouldn't say it's like a great, and it's not one of the best like DreamWorks movies out there. But if it's getting a sequel,
You telling me the Aquafina spider's not your new favorite character ever?
No, far from. Actually, she's probably the least favorite fucking character in that movie. But I think Mr. Wolf's really fun. I think he's a fun character. Definitely a lot to talk about for both, I imagine. Probably a lot more for Carmen Sandiego, just naturally. But I think Mr. Wolf would also be fun. Bad Guys seems like a very unexplored series or like franchise, I guess, to delve into. Yeah, I think Mr. Wolf would be fun. Carmen as well, but I think Where's Waldo is the matchup, is the one. We got Asgore versus Rando. I don't know what the fuck Lisa is.
Lisa is I don't remember if it is an RPG Maker game. I think the first one might have been, but Lisa the Painful RPG is the main one people know. It's set in a post-apocalypse, like a desert world. Think like Mad Max, Fist of the North Star type stuff. And you find a little baby girl, and basically only men are left on the planet. And you have to try to survive and like raise this child into like a full human. It's very, very dark. Like, it has its comedic moments, and there's clear inspirations from stuff like every fucking indie game's inspired by Earthbound to some extent, but that's there, and like other early RPG Maker games. They're very good games. I appreciate a lot of what they do. I think that might be teetering on a little too dark for this show, perhaps.
It seems like that. It seems like a story that's like very very sensitive, that it'd be kind of hard to talk about it in like a versus sense, just in general as well.
Yeah,
I like Asgore a lot. I mean, we did a podcast on it not that long ago. I think Asgore versus Andreas is still fun, even though I think Andreas fucking destroys Asgore. I think the bigger problem with Asgore, just in general, is that he's a really cool character, but he's barely in Deltarune, and his stuff in Undertale, like, while it was really well written and is really good, he has one fight, and then he gets bitched by Flowey in the normal run.
Yeah, that is the thing, is that he really does just have one fight of content, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think he's cool though. Like I like Asgore a lot. I just don't think I really think we should probably talk about Undertale again, because we did do it once, and then I don't like that episode. I think it's really bad. But I don't think Asgore would be the one. But I think I definitely see the appeal of using Undertale, and Lisa seems cool, even if I don't think we'll use it.
I think a lot of other versus shows, probably Death Battle included, are going to tackle Sans Judge at some point if they haven't already. I don't know if that's the matchup to go to, but I would not be opposed to using Undertale again. Yeah. I think it really is just a matter of like finding a matchup that scratches the right itch.
In the same vein, I know Deltarune isn't finished, but I also think it's at a point where it's like you could probably talk about Deltarune a little bit, and then if you ever like once it wraps up, we could bring it back at some point as well. So I wouldn't mind talking about Undertale or Deltarune. Yeah. With the Ghoul from Fallout versus Cad Bane from Star Wars.
What's your favorite Star Wars character?
Okay, you're gonna fucking jump me for this one. I think Cad Bane's actually kind of cool.
He is pretty cool. No, I'm not gonna jump you for that one. In Clone Wars, at least, Cad Bane's really fucking cool.
Cad Bane's really cool. Yeah, I will agree. In the fucking Book of Boba Fett, he gets bitched. That was shit. What?
The Book of Boba Fett's fucking horrible anyway.
That did not cook there. But I think Cad Bane's pretty cool. I have not seen the Fallout show, but the Ghoul seems like a really, really cool part of it, and I think this definitely scratches the itch of like a sci-fi fantasy cowboy match as well. So I think that'd be kind of cool.
I can see it. I'm a little partial towards Cad Bane versus Aaron Black. I think that's neat. I think Aaron Black is one of the only like truly cool things to come out of the NRS era of Mortal Kombat that NRS didn't decide to doo-doo diarrhea all over for no reason. because Aaron Black is so uninvolved with the story that he doesn't get like horribly kneecapped by just being.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I feel like the main one for this one is just like, I think we like other options, and I don't know the Ghoul that well, but I feel like it'd be cool. Definitely like one I'd keep in the back of my head if we were to look through all these ones and be like, hey, which ones do people want to see the most? But yeah, I think this one would be really cool. I do like Cad Bane.
Cad Bane.
Fucking, you're not gonna know not the second one. The first, I feel like you would know the second one. The first one you won't know here, but
Yeah, I know the Warden. I play Minecraft. I don't know what the fuck the figure is. I know of Roblox Doors. I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it because I haven't played Roblox since like 7th or 8th grade.
So I guess for context on the figure. The figure is from a game called Roblox Doors, and it's kind of a horror game. I don't know. I don't find Roblox that scary, just naturally, just because it's a very like well, I guess in the same sense like Minecraft isn't very scary. Like I guess the theme behind this is just like, oh, they're scary creatures from kind of lighthearted games. I think Roblox Doors is funny just because the submitter here, Dread's one of my older friends in just the wider Death Battle community, and him, and a few others played Doors a lot. So I think it'd be funny to talk about Doors. I don't think we're ever gonna talk about Doors just because fucking Doors is kind of nothing. It's not that good of a game.
Based on the half that I do know of this matchup, I feel like the Warden's just not very substantive to talk about for a versus episode.
Yeah, that too. Definitely, like, it's funny. This is like the kind of matchup you'd save for like fucking Realm of Gods X or whatever, like where it's the fucking mini show. But even then, I don't know. It's not that interesting, but I think it's funny. So you have that at least. Realm of Gods Jr. Let's go.
Keith Howard versus Wilson Fisk is kind of funny. That said, if you're subscribed to the Patreon, I'm pretty sure we already have Kingpin versus Penguin up there. So
yeah, that's one of the Patreon rewards.
If you want to see a Kingpin matchup, share the show, share the Patreon,
and then we'll do an army fight with Kingpin. But I think
we'll have Geese as a little Easter egg in the background.
Yeah, Geese will be there somewhere. You have to look for him. You know, if you.
I hate how it looks like by like the perspective of Geese's render is cut off a little bit, so it looks like his ring finger is like horribly malformed and mutated.
Fucking hell. Geese is like I never. Okay, my interactions with Fatal Fury and SNK are limited to just like the Capcom crossovers, and I think I have Millennium Match 2001 on Steam, but I haven't played that much out of it. Kingpin's base though. I fucking love Daredevil and Kingpin and that kind of area of Marvel.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Was Geese? I think you're probably more knowledgeable on SNK than I am. Was Geese like covered well on the death battle against Heihachi?
I would say so. They could maybe go a little more into just like what his syndicate does, but for the most part, they covered Geese very well. He's a big fucking weeaboo. He's a huge dick that fucking hosts fighting tournaments just to show off. He kills people's dads. He's a terrible father himself. That's the main stuff you'd need to touch on for him. I feel like the main thing would just be having his underlings show up, but honestly, Billy Kane is interesting enough that he could probably get his own episode someday if we find like a fun matchup.
Fair. Yeah, I think my big thing with Kingpin matchups and why I like the Penguin so much for him is just because Kingpin's really interesting when he's fighting someone so much smaller than him, and like he's a big guy, full of muscle, of course. So when he fights Spider-Man or in the matchup, I like Penguin. He's a very menacing force. Here, I think Geese like probably isn't as big as Kingpin, but would still be able to keep up relatively well and way better than like Spider-Man naturally does, just because he's a fighting guy and he's also very tough in his own right. So I think it'd be a very interesting kind of. It's interesting in comparison to like the other matchups where Kingpin like focuses on his size in comparison to his opponent as well. But I also don't think Kingpin's all that interesting as a physical fighter anyway. So I don't know. I think the idea is cool. I get the comparison at the very least, but yeah. The Iris versus Archangel Gabriel. I don't know.
I'm not terribly interested in using any kind of analog horror. I cannot lie.
Yeah. I like Mandela Catalog. I think Mandela Catalog's kind of cool, but I've never.
Because it's like, we've definitely bounced around a few ideas that I feel like you could capture the analog horror vibe in without having, like, to extrapolate as much, I guess, and theorize as to what the actual lore is, like you would have to do with a lot of analog horror. Because there's a lot of, like, regular horror content matchup with very clear themes, very clear stories, very clear everything else that you could give that same, like, a grainy footage, like, documentary style vibe to, and, like, fucking with the medium, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there are ideas that can delve more into the whole analog aspect of it rather than like specifically taking from it. I also think like when people pitch matchups like this or like Nick's Hatton, that's also fucking Richard Nixon's a fucking ARG character or whatever. It's just very weird to like get footage for it and edit that. It'd be unique, but it also seems like a very hard visual challenge for an editor and also like a fight director.
Yeah, a lot of the characters from like analog horror, because like Nem put out like one or two videos talking about just all the analog horror he could find or like was willing to cover in one episode, which ended up being like 50 series. Very, very few of them are actually versus applicable to any interesting degree.
Yeah. Cool idea though. I like the thumbnail. Thumbnail's really cool. Moving on. Okay, I really like this one. We have Kuromi from Sanrio and Hello Kitty versus Ashley from WarioWare. I
could see it.
I think this one's so fun just because it's like both of them are witches. That's kind of the big thing. They're both witches. Focus on a lot of magic stuff. But it's also kind of an army fight because they also have not an army fight, but they have allies that they can bring into the fight that I also think would be really interesting. Obviously,
they actually got little minions.
Yeah, the little minions. Yeah. And I think what's interesting about this is just because, like, as we were talking about earlier with Garfield Hello Kitty, Sanrio has so much fucking media that I think it would have enough to at least talk about in comparison to like Mario generally. Ashley does kind of have the problem where it's like you can talk about stuff in WarioWare. There are some stuff as far as I'm aware, but you will probably have to delve into like the wider Mario stuff, just in general. But I do.
Yeah, a little bit. There's definitely enough to make an analysis out of for Ashley without delving too much into Mario. The matchup that would come to mind if I had to like look for Kurumi matchups is probably the main girl villain in Onpon Man. I always fucking forget her name, but it's a similar vibe of just like not all that miscreant little creature from a series that's like the mascot franchise in Japan. That said, Onpon Man, unless you like really frequent animation on Tubi, guarantee you have not seen.
Yeah, that is the first time I've ever heard of that.
Onpon Man, most people would know of being the inspiration behind One Punch Man. He's from like the 1950s, I want to say. And dude was like, hey, I've been like starving and like hungry before. What if there was a superhero that could give people food? And so he made a dude whose head is a red bean pastry that he breaks off little chunks and feeds to people, which is a little horrific, but it is the most successful franchise in Japan outside of Pokemon, so...
That's okay.
Guess they know something I did.
That's... Okay, yeah. Just in general, I think you can kind of tell from my passion about talking Hello Kitty and Kuromi. I think a Sanrio episode would definitely be very fun. Definitely something new and unique to talk about that I haven't seen another versus show really talk about. Yeah, I think this one's cool too. But I also think the one you were talking about just a minute ago would also be cool with a little bit more like look into it, I guess. We got Suyu versus Kermit. For those who aren't aware, which we'll talk about it later, wink wink, but we were gonna do, me and Dormanos were gonna do Kermit last year against Hatsune Miku, but the episode didn't work out for various reasons. I fucking love Muppets.
I would be super down to do like Grover versus Gonzo sometime. That would be really fucking silly. It's like, especially if we could somehow do it like 3D animated and have them just like fucking ragdolling all over the place.
like a Gmod skit.
Yeah, I think that'd be silly. I think in general, there's a lot of places you could pull from for Muppets opponents. Suyu is fun. I like her well enough, but if we're going to use a My Hero character on Realm of Gods, there are definitely characters that stand out to me more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do like the matchup. I think, while it's like not like super like deeper thematic, it's like, oh, they're frogs. I think Death Battle cast on it was pretty fun, but I do agree that it's like, I think there's more ideas that this show could tackle because I feel like at some point Death Battle or another show has to tackle this one. Or at least like we'll talk about it at some point. I feel like we can talk about some more different Muppets matchups, but I do like the matchup. It's a good. You probably have
Sash
more.
Lilac versus Shantae.
Yeah, you probably have more to say about this one than I do, because I have not played either of these games.
I mean, this is neat. These are definitely two of the bigger faces in, I guess, platformer indie games. Next to like Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, Cuphead, that type of stuff. I see the vibe. I'm not super sure what the connection is beyond just being like purple indie platformer characters. I think Shantae Philly is interesting. I think Shantae Isa is interesting. I think Lilac versus Sparks is interesting. I think they've definitely got a lot of matchups they could go for other than this one. That said, as cool as they are, I'm not super duper dying to do either character just because I've only played a little bit of, I think, the newest Shantae, and I have not played Freedom Planet. I have only watched it be played by associates.
Yeah, I get that. Shantae is like a character like I probably should check out at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it because I do like platformers. Freedom Planet, on the other hand, like I'm sure I'll probably have to try it out at some point because I do want to get into more indie stuff. But at the same time, I'm surprised it's still being pushed because I remember Freedom Planet like gaining popularity like, I don't know, 2016 maybe, but it was like very like a long time ago, like relatively speaking, and I don't
it's
hear
been around a while.
Yeah, I don't hear that much new stuff about it either. So it's like I'm surprised it's still being like majorly pushed as like, oh yeah, we want to see Freedom Planet and versus stuff, which is cool. I think that's really cool that there's still like a good fan base still pushing.
I think Lilac versus Sparks would be interesting to see, like indie game that pays homage to 2D Sonic versus indie game that pays homage to 3D Sonic.
Yeah, I think in that aspect, I think it'd be cool. I just don't know either. But good thumbnail. I do like the thumbnail.
Thumbnail is not.
Fucking okay. Kimba versus Simba. Let's. I had a fucking rant about this in another call. I don't know if I was with you when I did it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Go off. Then.
Fucking.
Go on.
I'm sorry. We're not doing Kimba versus Simba. I don't know. I like Lion King. I don't know shit about Kimba. But didn't like Cartoon Fight Club do a video on this, or like I feel like Animation Rewind would have talked about it.
Well, I brought up Kimba versus Weed in another one, or again, I forget which one. And people are like, "Oh, I think Cartoon Fight Club already did that one." I'm like, "No fucking shot! They've used Silver Fang Gin. That has like no Western appeal. They did not fucking do that." Sure enough, or no, it wasn't Cartoon Fight Club. It was fucking Fan War, I think. Even worse.
Fucking, I don't know. I like Lion King. I do like Lion King. The main thing I feel like with Lion King characters is that they're not super interesting from a versus perspective. Even if I do like Simba. I think Scar versus Koba is pretty fun, but I don't think we're gonna be the ones to do that. But generally, like, I don't see the appeal about talking about this one. I know people
You
have
don't
talked
you don't
about.
want to do Scar versus Shere Khan? Come on.
Can't say I do. But I know Simba versus Kimba has been talked about. Like obviously it's a comparison and like not a rivalry, I guess, but you get what I mean. Like it's been talked about to a fucking good enough degree. I don't see the point in us talking about it specifically.
There are other Osamu Tezuka characters I would rather use. Like I would rather use Hyakumaru from Dororo first. I would rather use Astro Boy. I would rather use like Princess Knight would be interesting to cover.
Yeah.
Actually, fun fact: if you haven't heard of Princess Knight, the story revolves around a girl, I believe, who is pretending to be a guy to be a knight, and a similar theme is tackled in it's like Mulan. It's a similar theme is tackled in Dororo, where the titular character Dororo, the child that Hyakumaru is escorting, was born a girl, but identifies as a boy and was raised as one. Which means that Osamu Tezuka, considered like the father of manga, Japan's Walt Disney, who created all of these seminal works, planted the very seeds of exploring gender identity in manga all the way back at its conception, which I think is super interesting, and I think it'd be super interesting to use one of those characters for a Pride Month episode. I think that'd be very cool.
Fair. I have no disagreements there. We can move on. We've been talking about fucking Kimba. I think enough.
Shredder versus Slade.
I love Teen Titans, like the original Teen Titans show. I've never seen TMNT 2003. I know probably the fan favorite.
So I have a complicated history with both. I know I caught some episodes of the original Teen Titans because I remember the theme song very vividly. I could not name the plot of a single episode that I watched, but I know I caught the movie all the fucking time. And for TMNT's 2003 era, I know I didn't watch the base one, and I know I didn't watch Back to the Sewers, but I had all of Fast Forward on DVD, which is considered one of, if not the worst Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shows ever. So that was the Turtles that I grew up on. Was their shitty, stupid fucking future versions.
That's fucking awesome. I've never heard of that, by the way. Like, until you just mentioned it, I'd never heard of that. That sounds made the fuck up.
You should ask Ollie about it. It's her favorite one.
I do like the general like idea of Shredder versus Deathstroke. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I feel like the main thing is just I haven't seen TMNT 2003. I just know it's a fan favorite, but I do like Teen Titans. We have Dr. Coomer versus Spamton.
No.
You know, I think Spamton's funny, y'all. I think he's funny. And I do, like I said earlier, I do think it'd be fun to talk about Deltarune. I'm sorry to say the two fans who wanted this. Half-Life VR, but the AI is self-aware, is not getting an episode. I hate to break it to you.
I do really like those videos, but they do not need a versus episode.
Yeah. Mario versus Sonic, Super Mario Bros. Z versus fucking I don't even know what that is. Final Fantasy Sonic X.
Final Fantasy Sonic X, I believe. So Super Mario Bros. Z, I feel like I probably don't have to introduce to anybody that's into the versus community because, like, if you got into Death Battle, it was probably through Sprite Fights, and if you got into Sprite Fights, it was probably through Super Mario Bros. Z. If you haven't checked it out, it's definitely worth looking into. It is, like, one of the most important pieces of fan animation on the internet, I would say. That said, Mark Haynes is a big piece of shit, and he covers it up pretty well every time that he makes his little comments, but, do a little digging, and you'll find that our good friend Alvin Earthworm is not super family friendly, so probably don't want to send any traffic his way outside of, like, I guess, historical research purposes. Final Fantasy Sonic X is not a thing I grew up on. It's a thing that I grew up knowing about because it was hosted on a lot of the same websites that I would look at Super Mario Bros. Z or other Flash stuff on. Basically, it's like a Final Fantasy fanfiction type shit, but with Sonic in it. And Sonic's got a sword and magic and shit. And it's cool. I definitely see the through line here. But if we're gonna do Mario versus Sonic, it's not gonna be this version.
Yeah, that's wrapped up all the words that I was gonna say. um, yeah, I've heard bad things about Marcane, so that's kind of my big one. I also think it's like this is kind of going like more into like internet show category, which I think it's a little weird in like the ways of which we tackle it.
Yeah.
But it's cool, I guess. I don't know.
Let's while we're on the topic of internet stuff, no, we will not be using Sonichu on Realm of
Yeah,
Gods.
Sonichu's not happening. Wink, wink. Sonichu's not happening. Wink, wink. Raoh versus Akuma. Wait, what? You're probably gonna.
This
have
matchup is so fucking cool. The TLDR on these guys is that they were like prodigy students of a martial arts made for killing people for assassination. Then some other dude comes along and learns how to be peaceful with it. They're like, that sucks, you're a pussy. They kill their master. They try to kill their friend / other student. And they lean basically full into being evil. Both are known as the King of Fists within their world. And it's interesting where Akuma lives a very solitary life and does not really interact with the outside world much unless he thinks you're strong enough and has shown up to beat you to death. Whereas Raoh has conquered the wasteland. There is not a single person in the world of the Fist of the North Star that has not heard the name Ken-O before. I think it's interesting that Akuma has fought someone like Gen, who also uses pressure point combat that makes people explode, which is, you know, experience with Fist of the North Star if I've ever heard it. And how Raoh, by using Muso Tensei and some of the stuff that happens in his last fight with Kenshiro, has messed with soul hacks before, which is a lot of what the Satsui no Hado does. I think this matchup is the coolest one for both of them. I think it would be sick as fuck. I think there's so many cool shots you could have. I think the coolest interaction that I would love to see is, you know, that big punch Akuma does into the ground that makes shit explode?
Yeah.
That is called the Heaven-Rending Fist, I believe, in Japanese. And the pose that we're seeing Raoh do in this thumbnail is when he punches his own soul into the sky so hard it splits the heavens. So, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the cool shit about this matchup kind of writes itself. I think this would be so fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think Akuma would be fun. I don't know anything about Fist of the North Star, but I do like Akuma Street Fighter. I think it'd be fun.
Then it's time you learn.
Speaking of Street Fighter, Chun-Li versus Jill Valentine.
I think this one's neat. That said, I'm a little biased because I'm part of the reason that it spread around a little bit. Basically, some of the first and most important playable ladies in gaming. They're both police girls. They're some of Capcom's biggest characters. Street Fighter and Resident Evil are two very, very tonally different franchises. And honestly, how they fight is quite different. But I think in general, it would be kind of interesting to just, like, take a look at the history of the characters for what they represent and be able to use Marvel versus Capcom sprites against each other. That would make it easy.
Very easy fight to animate. I think it's obvious that, like, Resident Evil, we're using Wesker fucking twice. And I like Chun-Li too. I think this would be a cool fight. I don't know. I don't have much to say about it, but I get the theme, and I think it's a very cool, like, fight and just idea in general. Fucking Jack Sparrow. You were not there in the calls. I was in fucking, like, hours before this one. Don't spoil Wily Tom, people, because Acto hasn't seen it. But I watched Wily Tom with a few people, a friend group, and one of the persons just kept fucking doing a Jack Sparrow impression, and it was really pissing me off. And I think that has completely turned me off of Jack Sparrow ever being used. I fucking hate that guy. I want Jack Sparrow murdered. in which he's probably not coming back.
I will
to
say,
the series.
I think Jack Sparrow versus Indiana Jones is pretty fun. I think the theme is pretty neat. I think the debate is a lot more interesting than you would think it is, taking a look at it from like a surface level, because if you delve into it, they both got like magical artifacts and a little bit of just inherent magic in them. They could not be any less similar personality-wise, and I think that would make for a fun fight dynamic. And I think the most interesting thing you could do with this, obviously, is animate it with Legos.
That's funny, actually. I remember playing the Pirates of the Caribbean DS game, because they ported those ones to the DS, and they played like a full-on Lego game, surprisingly, and I remember having that. My exposure to Indiana Jones is very little, but I also think this matchups are cool, just generally speaking. I think the major problems, I just haven't engaged with either movie, so I would not know much about it. But I think it sounds cool inherently. Surge versus Fern. I think you invented this one, didn't you? You invented the matchup.
I might have. I probably did. Adventure Time is my favorite show, for context. And I quite like what I've read of Surge's appearances in the IDW comics. They are green sort of clones of our main characters. They've got the little elemental ability to set them apart. And most of their main arc has to deal with imposter syndrome of, like, Surge was basically tailor-made to fight Sonic the Hedgehog and has no greater purpose in life because all of her memories from beforehand were wiped. And everything about her existence seems to be in the shadow or made in the image of Sonic. This person she fucking despises and wants to grow past, but cannot help but live to destroy. Where Fern is literally Finn from another universe who has been turned into a grass creature, so he has all of the same memories as Finn, but all of a sudden he's being treated not as Finn and has to learn how to basically be someone else. And I think generally how unhinged and like obscenely resilient they are would lean into a more violent fight than both of these series typically lean into, especially because that's a lot of what their characters facilitate. Since they can both regenerate, they both get kind of brutal. And I think delving into their psyches and how much, like, really they've carved their own identity completely and stepped out of the shadow of the people they were sort of made to imitate would be interesting for an analysis.
Yeah, I yawned.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I boring?
Sorry, I'm tired. No, I think this is really cool. I think this is a fun idea. I didn't really I got the theme like when he told it about me in another call, but I also think it's like a very interesting comparison, and I think it'd be a fun fight. I never was really sold on it, but hearing you talk about it more with more passion, it's very clear. I think this would be a more passion-driven episode in that sense. I think my only hesitancy is from what I remember of Adventure Time, does Fern do that much?
Fern is in the last, I want to say 2.5, maybe 3 seasons. He definitely does enough to work off of, especially because up to the point he's introduced, he is Finn. He is Finn who lived the same events, just taken out of his place in the timeline. He gets turned into a sword for a little while. And so, you could talk a little bit about the Finn sword and the grass sword, both components of who he used to be. You could talk about, in general, just his place in the world of Adventure Time. And that is honestly one of the bigger gripes I have with Fern's involvement, is I really wish we got to spend more time with him, but I think they do make good use of what they have. And they use him plenty while he's around. The issue is that he gets introduced, they make good, and then he fucking stays behind while they go to Islands for that miniseries. And then they come back, the Elements miniseries happens, and Fern is a candy guy for that. And then shit gets turned back, and then shit goes south, and he's there for the Gum War. He's one of the main characters for that. I think there's enough content. I think, honestly, it's probably a comparable amount to what Surge has right now, because she hasn't been around for too long.
All right, fair. Then yeah, I think this is interesting. Definitely one of the higher on the list ones we talked about today. Kirito versus Gordon. So I think we've already spoke our piece about Half-Life VR. Fucking Sword Art Online is cutting it close, because we're not using Sword Art Online abridged, but I do fucking Sword Art Online shit. Like, objectively, it's not that good, but I do have fondness for Kirito, and I think it'd be fun to talk about it, even if it's not a very like good piece of media. So in that sense, I think Kirito versus Neo would be cool. But we're not doing Sword Art Online abridged. That's not fucking happening.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely fucking not. Somebody join the VC.
Well, what about Alan versus Jax? What about that one?
Okay, Alan versus Jax has a really goated rap battle, and thus it's why we must do it as a full-on episode.
All right.
I do think Digital Circus and Smiling Friends would be really fucking funny to see talked about, like in a versus context. I don't think this is the matchup for either, but like either series, character-wise, I get it. But series wise, I don't think this is the one we do for either, but I do think it's funny. Watch the Snake Bite rap battle. You get pretty much the same leeway out of that as we would talking about a fucking versus episode. I also want to point out Soul's thumbnail as Sonic.exe in the background, and that really pisses me off. It
sure does.
That really, why did he add that? I just noticed that. Like, as I was
talking
about
who
it.
he is. You know what he's about.
Captain America versus Batwing.
Nah.
Damn.
On one hand, Sam Wilson's cool. I do like Sam Wilson. I grew up with Falcon in the Avengers cartoon, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I grew up with Falcon in Superhero Squad for a while that was on when I was younger. Who genuinely gives a rat's ass about Batwing?
Me.
Wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I don't even know who Batwing even is. Sam Wilson's cool though. I do like Sam Wilson. I think he'd be fun.
That's why we're doing Sam Wilson versus Hawks.
True. The Rogues versus the Sinister Six.
This thumbnail pisses me the shit off. Learn how to fucking crop correctly.
Fucking, I can see Captain Cold. Who's on the Rogues? Is it Mirror Master in the back there?
Yes, the Trickster, I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with the Rogues. I recognize like 3 of them. Meanwhile, who the fuck wants to see the Hobgoblin in the Sinister Six lineup?
Well, I'm trying to think who's the main, like, big one missing here. You have Sandman, you have Mysterio, Vulture, Electro.
Where's Rhino?
Where's Rhino or Kraven? Because Kraven was in the original lineup. What?
Yeah, Rhino, Kraven, fucking
Shocker, I guess. Why the fuck is
Shocker? Yeah.
Like, why the fuck is Hobgoblin here? Who invited Roger
I feel like
Kingsley?
almost. I feel like Sandman, Mysterio, Dr. Octopus, and to an extent Electro could all warrant their own episodes. I feel like having them as a part of the Sinister Six is doing them a bit of a disservice. Vulture and Hobgoblin are not getting on this fucking show. That's not happening. As long as I draw breath, I will fight to see that it does not happen.
I'm sorry to all the Adrian Toombs fans out there. He's not getting on a fucking Rumble God.
I'm not.
You fucking hate the Vulture?
He's fucking boring. He's just a bald guy with wings.
Okay. Fuck, we got a lot of DC versus Marvel. Red Tornado versus Vision.
I really like this idea, though. I think this one's super cool. Red Tornado's another character that I grew up with through, like, Brave and the Bold and, like, Young Justice.
Yeah.
Vision, I'll admit that I didn't super grow up with. I only got into him, I guess, a little more recently. But, I mean, the general idea of like androids who start out as villains to the Avengers and the Justice League. Then they get reprogrammed and they like learn humanity. They start their little families. I think it's interesting. And it's also one of the Marvel DC matchups that's like not stats because I think both can regenerate from like a ridiculous amount of shit and have like a bunch of different forms of becoming intangible or like barriers and stuff and like hacking. So I think it would come down to hacks. I think in general it's one of the more interesting Marvel DC matchups that hasn't been tackled very much by versus shows.
I agree with that. I don't know either character super well outside of like that, like you said, Brave and the Bold and MCU, but I think it'd be fun. It's one of the more interesting ones out there. Postal Dude versus Hank J. Wimbledon. I hate to break it to all Postal fans, I'm not doing the Postal Dude. It's not fucking happening.
No Postal.
I don't
Everybody's
like
friends like, oh, but you could play Postal without doing all of the raunchy shit. I'm like, then you're playing it wrong. That's the point of Postal.
I don't no Postal. Madness Combat, I don't know. I've seen it a lot. Like I've seen it pushed around a lot. I don't fucking know it. So in that sense, I don't know.
Madness Combat's one of those things like Homestuck where it's like, this is such a staple of the internet that I know next to fuck all about that like people who are into it are stupid into it and can tell you like everything about it and all the fan works and like all of it. And I don't have a clue.
Yeah, that's fair. Very fair. Urshifu versus Poe.
No.
Yeah, I think Urshifu's cool. I don't think he's standing a shit ton of a chance against Poe, and I also just think...
The worst thing is that you can't have both Urshifu styles, because it can only evolve into one or the other.
Yeah, you have to pick which one you'd fucking like more, which I guess would be the dark one, in my opinion, but... Fucking, yeah, no.
The alleged Kung Fu Panda when Urshifu single strike style Gigantamaxes and fucking Wicked blows him out of orbit into the next solar system.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I feel bad, but yeah, no, I don't see how this would work. Or not how it. No, I know how a fight between the two would go, but I also just think it's not that debatable, and I also just fucking Urshifu's not that interesting. Yeah,
just a random Pokemon are not that interesting usually.
The gorilla who fought 100 men versus the flying gorilla. What the peak?
It's pretty good. It's not as good as Gorilla Glue Gorilla versus Trunk Monkey, though.
True. Goliath versus Beast. People really want us to talk about Beast. You want to talk about Beast, Ecto?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing a Beast matchup sometime. He's kind of cool, but I don't really want to do Beast Goliath again.
I don't know Gargoyles. I've never seen it.
I've seen a little bit of Gargoyles for like, I couldn't have been older than like 4 when I saw a few episodes of it, but I know I saw some of it, and I know that it's got like, it's really, really popular for the people that grew up on it. Like it was surprisingly profitable for Disney, and I think it had like a comic revival recently. So I know that there definitely is an audience for Gargoyles. I just don't. If it's something I'd be super interested in talking about.
Fair, yeah. I don't see much appeal in doing this either. Ash versus Leon, on the other hand, I like the matchup. I think it's a fun matchup. On the same hand, fucking Ash probably fucking destroys Leon. It does not sound that close. I love Leon. I don't think he's gonna do shit to Ash. Ash just has like so much more media and also just like does more crazy stuff.
Ash is in this very particular sect of horror content / slasher content that if we cover the slightest thing wrong, I know a handful of people I'm never gonna fucking hear the end of it from.
Yeah.
No thank you.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about Ash too. And I worked on an Ash blog, and that exactly happened. But I do think the idea is cool, and I'd love to talk about Leon. But yeah, I don't think.
I'm sure Leon has something else.
Yeah, Leon probably has something else.
That said, Witchblade versus Toxin sounds kind of cool.
I thought you were gonna rip into this one for fucking hating Toxin or something. I was really expecting to be like, Toxin,
I don't hate
really?
Toxin. Toxin's okay. Like, of all of the symbiotes, Toxin's definitely going to be the biggest eye roller of them. That said, I think he's a little underrated. I think he's kind of cool. Witchblade's a character / series. I think it spun off from the Darkness. It could be the other way around. I don't remember. Because I know Venom versus Jackie Estacado is a big matchup. I think this is like a play off of that, looking into, I guess, more undersold characters would be kind of interesting. I would definitely not be opposed to this one. This one sounds.
Yeah, I think it sounds cool.
It's a cool idea for a symbiote matchup that's not just using Venom or Carnage again, because I'm so fucking sick of them both.
That's absolutely fair. I was really expecting you to be like, oh, I fucking hate Toxin. I have no Toxin. I don't know what Witchblade is, but I'm assuming it's a comic and has like a bunch of stuff. So I think it'd be cool.
It's an Image comic series.
Gotcha. Senator Armstrong versus the Boss.
No.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm good about talking about Senator Armstrong. I think the fan battle already did what you can do with him, analysis-wise. Also, just don't care for Metal Gear too much, but I think even if we were going to talk about Metal Gear, there's a lot more to talk about in terms of characters.
Oh, but you love Saints Row, though. That's your favorite series.
I have not fucking interacted with Saints Row. Cassie Hack versus Juliet Sterling. Or Starling. I think it's Starling. I do...
Lollipop Chainsaw is cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to covering it. I've never heard of Hack Slash. I do not know what that is.
I think I've heard of Hack Slash. I've never like read it. I think it's a comic. So I've heard of it. Lollipop Chainsaw is really cool, and I think we kind of like an interesting series to talk about. So in that sense, I think this would be cool. Definitely one of the cooler ones we've seen suggested today. I think that'd be kind of cool.
There's your Leon matchup. There you go, Juliet Starling.
Juliet versus Leon. That's kind of funny. I don't. They have nothing in comparison other than being blonde, but you know, I think it'd be funny.
They fight zombies. That's literally the plot of Lollipop Chainsaw.
Emperor Nefarious versus Second Dimension Doof. Ecto, I think we gotta do Second Dimension Doof.
I disagree.
I get the.
We gotta do regular Doof and Schmirtz first, you boob.
I get the theme. They're like alternate dimension versions of the main villains, and they could be an army fight. I get it. Fucking why though? Why would we focus on Emperor Nefarious, and why would we focus on Second Dimension Doof? Like, you're not gonna have as much to talk about because Emperor Nefarious is in one game. He's in Written Time, I think, and Second Dimension Doof is in one movie and one episode. So in that sense.
He's also in the game adaptation.
Oh, in the games, I guess. But, like, you would just use significantly less than normal fucking Doof would. So, in that sense, yeah. I get the theme. I get the comparison. We're not fucking doing these versions specifically.
So, on the next matchup, I read In Stars and Time as The Fault in Our Stars, and I was so deeply confused.
So, luckily for the person who suggested this, I have started playing Stars in Time. I'm not super far into it. It's a good game, good RPG. Azrael is interesting, because I think Flowey Princess is really interesting, but I think Death Battle is going to do it. But that's probably the big, like, Flowey matchup I'd want to do. Azrael's interesting just because, like, I don't know. I don't get the comparison between Azrael and Sifrin just yet. I'm not super far into Stars in Time. But it sounds cool because they're both like RPGs. In Stars in Time is like black and white, like kind of a classic RPG. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see like clash with Undertale's black and white art style. Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Definitely.
I agree. I think maybe you got a point. You know what? That's pretty badass.
Shut the fuck up. We're talking about Crest again.
For a second.
We're doing Crest versus Archie Sonic.
Yeah, this guy is the fucking Crest's #1 fan.
People
like,
really want
like
fucking Crest. I've never heard of this character until today.
Well, it's the same person submitted this. They really want us to use Crest.
Really want us to use Crest. Yeah, we need to get this person on the podcast or something to fucking pitch us Crest and like why we should talk about Crest.
I don't know if we need to use Archie Sonic again. Well, we used Archie Shadow, but I mean Archie Sonic comics. I don't know. In
general, yeah.
We definitely, I will say, a goal that I have in my tenure for working on Realm of Gods for as long as the show goes on, I want to try and get another Sonic episode out there. I don't think this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. I also just... Fucking Archie Sonic's just so overplayed, and, like, people already get just like, oh, he's the most powerful Sonic.
That's why we're going to do Mario-kun versus Fleetway Sonic.
True. Squiggly versus Hisenko? Is it Hisenko? Is that how you say it? I don't know.
It's Shenko.
Shenko? Okay. I think this is cool. I know Galil really likes this matchup. I do like Skullgirls.
It's neat. I've played a fair amount of Skullgirls. It's never super been my cup of tea. I did not super get into it, and Squiggly was not a character that stood out to me. I was a Painwheel main, personally. Darkstalkers, I would like to talk about. That said, it's not the super duper most interesting series ever. It really is one of those series that's just like, these characters fucking rock, but God, is there nothing happening?
Yeah, fair. I think the comparison's cool. I think it'd be a cool fight, like in the sense of like, oh yeah, they're fighting game characters. Of course, it'd be a cool fight. But yeah, generally, like I think there's more to talk about. I would like to talk about Skullgirls. I don't know who the character would be, and I don't know the matchup, but I think Skullgirls would be fun. Same with Darkstalkers. Yeah. Pauline versus Hatsune Miku.
No. Bad Adam.
Bad Adam. We're not like there's nothing to talk about for Pauline until well, I guess Bonanza will give her stuff.
Fucking brief aside, I was looking at a black bag on my floor and I was like, what the fuck is in that? And I started like messing with it. Like, is that like a case or something? When the fuck did I get Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater?
What the fuck?
I do not remember this game ever entering my home.
Well, it's yours now. You can play Metal Gear.
It's got like the manual still in it. Yeah, that's just Metal Gear Solid 3.
I don't know where the fuck you got Metal Gear Solid 3, but there you go. You got Metal Gear Solid 3.
I don't even own the first two. Cool, I guess.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, thumbs down. We're not doing Pauline. She has fucking nothing.
No, Pauline's such like a nothing character. When Bonanza comes out, all that's gonna make me want to do is use Donkey Kong more, not Pauline.
Yeah.
And Adam, I know why you used Pauline, and I am judging you.
Miku's cool though. No shade to Miku. Avocado versus Drax. We're not using MCU Drax.
No, and there's also like I don't know if we're using Final Space either. That's not that interesting. What a fucking crusty image of Drax. Like, where do you even search for a render with this few pixels?
I should hide this guy on the thumbnail somewhere. I should change it afterwards. Stupid. Dr. Nefarious versus General Grievous. I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. Both are cool. But I think Nefarious Cortex is cooler.
I lost my place. Hold on.
Okay, yeah. I don't like General Grievous is one of those characters that's so fucking cool when you don't know anything about him.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
Steven Universe versus Fred Mertens. I get it. They're Cartoon Network cartoons and they're teenagers, I guess.
They are. I don't know. I feel like Star versus Steven already touched on a lot of what I would want from a Steven Universe episode. That and Steven versus Invincible.
Yeah.
Finn, I'm sure, will be covered well whenever whatever fucking versus show decides to use Adventure Time versus regular show, finally.
God, I hope so. That's cool.
Finn is probably one of, if not the most important fictional character to me. Because, like, growing up with Adventure Time while it was coming out, a lot of the stuff that I was watching, like, Finn go through and, like, his character arcs, especially towards, like, the middle of the show, was the same stuff I was going through, and it was very important to me to have, like, I guess, like, see a story cover those things so it didn't feel like I was the only person in the world going through them. And for that reason, it's a little hard for me to put Finn specifically into a versus matchup and look at him completely versus pilled. Like, he's too personal of a character, I guess. Not to the extent that it would, like, hurt me to see him in a versus episode or anything. I'm not against it by any means. I just don't think I could put my bias aside in covering him like that.
Fair. Fair, yeah. I think the match
Sonic
makes sense.
Teto versus
cool.
Neko Arc.
Oh god. I hate to bring it to fucking Neko Arc fans. I don't think we're using her.
Type Moon, I'm kind of hesitant in general because, like, inherently it's the same multiverse as Fate, which is already going to be a fucking nightmare to cover versus wise. I know a lot of Fate fans will say, "Oh, fucking Giga made it seem way more complicated story-wise than it is." Story-wise, sure. Some of the fucking powers and concepts, and especially the cosmology, fuck ever learning that or trying to cover it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Kasane Teto's funny. But I don't think they're the first Vocaloid pick we'd
She
go
made a pretty
for.
banger song with Metal Sonic.
True! But how do we talk about a fucking good idea? Ice cream versus popsicle. Now, personally speaking,
Ice cream fucking sweeps like this is close.
No,
ass.
Popsicle fucking destroys. Let's not fucking sugarcoat it.
You would think that.
Popsicle's
You're
fucking
such a
goated.
loser.
Fuck you!
You're such a loser.
I like both, but Popsicle's like
such a
superior
loser.
and it's more convenient.
I like popsicles.
Popsicles
I like
you just
popsicles.
pull out of the fucking freezer, you unopen the bag, and you have a fucking popsicle you can hold, and you just fucking like eat it. But ice cream.
When the fuck are you ever out and you've eaten dinner and you're like, I'm in the mood for dessert. Let's go get popsicles from the popsicle
convenience when you're in your own
restaurant.
home. Ice cream, obviously, if you're
You
going
go-
outside,
you
go
go
pick
to-
it up and get it in like
You
a
go to
fucking
Baskin
pound
Robbins
or
for
cup
their
or
ice
whatever.
cream. You go to Cold Stone for their ice cream. You go to Dairy Queen for their ice cream. You don't go fucking anywhere for their popsicle.
But again, convenience of your own home. It's way easier to go fucking get a popsicle out of the freezer than pull out a fucking container of ice cream.
If you're
get
too
a bowl,
lazy,
fucking
pull out the thing
scoop
of ice
everything
cream,
out that you wanna
scoop
eat,
it
and
into a
put it in the
bowl.
and
You
go put it
don't
back in
deserve
the
a
fridge.
treat.
It's convenient.
You have not earned your treat if you're too lazy to scoop it into a bowl.
Popsicles are convenient. They're convenient.
They're convenient and
man.
they're cheaper and shittier for
You're
it.
shitty.
You're shitty.
Moving on. I'm not even gonna. I hope that's not annoying, but I'm not gonna even try and.
Ami
pronounce that name.
Hadavian
Levian.
Ami Hadavian Levian versus Ralsei from Gwaine Saga and Deltarune. What the fuck is Gwaine Saga?
I keep hearing about Gwaine Saga. I have no fucking clue what it is. Maybe I need to check it out. I think the art style is cool. Deltarune I obviously very much love. I do love Deltarune. And Ralsei is cool. Probably the weakest of the main trio to talk about in the versus sense.
Yeah, probably.
I'd have to know more about
Yeah,
either,
probably.
or I'd have to know more about Gwaine Saga to really make a comment on this. But I do like Deltarune. I've established that. We should talk about Deltarune at some point, but yeah, I don't know. Pit versus Twilight Sparkle.
Now, I get it, and it's kind of funny. That said, I think there might be a little bit of a skew in the amount of material both have to work with.
Yeah. I also
Just a little bit.
don't want to deal with the whole fucking situation when you're gonna have to deal with when talking about fucking My Little Pony, just in general. And that's not even like me.
What
trying
My
to be
Little
mean.
Pony fans
Just
acting
being
like you're the
annoying
fucking devil when you cover it.
Cover it, and yeah, it's just fucking. I'm good. I'll avoid. You know, I was at one point I was like, I think Sonic versus Rainbow Dash would be cool. Now I'm fucking Team Sonic versus the Roadrunner. That's peak. But yeah, no, I think I'm good on talking about My Little Pony. I do love Kid Icarus. Kid Icarus would be fun.
I think in a vacuum, this is a very funny matchup. I definitely get the idea. This is not us. We are not doing it.
What he said. Mario versus Mickey Mouse.
Now, this might sound a little crazy. It seems a little generic, doesn't it?
A little bit. I get the idea. In that like they're the I start with M. They're like the main faces of like big gaming and like media brands and
they're that iconic fucking overalls and gloves
yeah.
like style.
Like I
But
get
that
it.
said, that's also so fucking much to go through, and like, I don't know. I think both have far more interesting.
Yeah, that's probably where I think it scratches the same itch as like Felix versus Pac-Man. To say like, oh, it's like gaming versus like wider like cartoons, I guess. But in that sense, like, I think there's more interesting stuff for both, and just like their general like series. Like, I think, fucking as much as I hate Patrick, I think Goofy versus Patrick would be kind of fun. Talking about like Mickey characters, and obviously Mario characters aren't gonna ever run out of matchups to talk about. I don't know if Mario himself.
Yeah, Donald Daffy's fun. Mickey Bugs is fun. Mario Sonic is obviously like one of the most important matchups ever. Even Felix Pac-Man, it's like, I get the idea, I get the comparison. That said, I think there are other matchups that just are more interesting. I'm personally a Pac-Man Bomberman guy myself, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I get it though. Good matchup. Just in general, I just think there's more interesting. Nia versus Starfire, Grand Lagan versus DC. What the fuck is Nia gonna do?
No.
Yeah. Point proven. Starfire had a really good versus episode. Well, outside of kind of plagiarism, but you know, Starfire had a really good like fight and like coverage, I guess, by Just Scorcher. So in that sense, I think we're good on talking about Starfire, and Nia doesn't fucking do anything in Gurren Lagann. So, yeah, no. Medic versus Richtofen. I do like Richtofen. Oh wait, hold on, my thing stopped capturing the fucking thing. Hold on, chat. So I'm gonna have to update the fucking thing, just so it'll make sure. Okay, there we go. Medic versus Richtofen. Speaking to the microphone, actually, I'm just making sure.
I've seen this matchup around for fucking ever, and it's never seemed super interesting to me.
Yeah, I get it. Like they have very similar like personalities, and obviously the voices are similar. I think the bigger problem is that Richtofen fucking destroys the Medic. It's not even remotely close, at all. I don't
know or care enough about Call of Duty to comment on that.
Yeah. From what I know about Call of Duty and Call of Duty Zombies, yeah, no, Richtofen fucking destroys him. I think the one for Richtofen would have been Jonesy, which, who knows, maybe that's the fight we're doing. I don't know. And I think Richtofen... Yeah, Richtofen, I think Richtofen Jonesy is probably a more interesting fight. In the sense that like Call of Duty and Fortnite is a very like good comparison. But yeah, no, I think I'm good about talking about this one. On the other hand, Brock Samson versus fucking Black Dynamite.
I like the comparison. I think it would be a super cool fight. I don't know if we're qualified to cover Black Dynamite.
Yeah.
I would love to cover Brock Samson sometime, and I do like Black Dynamite. That said, I feel like inherently this is just not the appropriate show for it.
Yeah, I agree. Venture Bros would be fun though. I've seen clips of Venture Bros, and I definitely want to get more into it. So if that's the excuse for it, I think that'd be fun. Speaking of from earlier, Mario versus Sonic, but this time it's Super Mario Galaxy versus Sonic and the Seven Rings versus the Black Knight, and the Black Knight. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Storybook Sonic versus Galaxy Mario, which Galaxy Mario just is regular Mario, and Storybook Sonic also just is regular Sonic, but it's like, I guess with his Storybook power-ups, but that like I get it, but no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sure is them from the Wii games.
I honestly think fucking Mario Galaxy versus Unleashed makes more sense as like a comparison, or like Galaxy versus Colors actually makes more sense. Just if you're like focusing on like games from those eras, but even then, like we're not specifically only gonna focus on Mario Galaxy and Sonic and the Seven Rings. Like I'm sorry, that's not. If we're talking about Mario and Sonic,
It's
and they're
not
the
even
main
Sonic and the
game
Seven Rings, it's Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Oh, he's not even the right name. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, no, we're not focusing on a specific game for either character.
Also, those games fucking suck. Sonic and the Secret Rings of Black Knight are terrible. Meanwhile, Mario Galaxy are like debatably Mario's best games ever.
Yeah. I think
the only good thing to come out of Sonic and the Black Knight is the fucking soundtrack, but that's like every Sonic game.
Yeah. Moving on, we talk Power versus Foo Fighters.
I like this one. I think it's a fun comparison. That said, like, I understand JoJo's is quite big and Part 6 by extension. I don't know how much Foo Fighters really has to talk about.
That's surprising. I haven't seen Part 6. So I wouldn't know. Yeah.
Because she's cool and all, and she is one of the main characters. It's not like she's not there for big plot moments, but, like, if you don't know Foo Fighters' story, it was a dead woman in a swamp, and a bunch of plankton invaded her body and formed a stand that allowed them to control water for various purposes, and also just, like, take over her body. It's basically the same way the Blood Fiend became Power, by possessing a dead woman's body. It's the same general vibe. But in that sense, neither of them really have much of a backstory. But while Power is one of, like, the 3 focus characters for all of Chainsaw Man Part 1, Foo Fighters is just, like, a member of the gang in Part 6. Like, she has her cool moments, don't get me wrong. I do like Foo Fighters. But I just don't think she can hang with Power relevance-wise.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Power would be cool. I think talking about Chainsaw Man again would definitely be worth it. And JoJo. Yeah. Emperor Belus versus King Andreas. I feel like Belus dies here. Well, no, I guess his little Titan form at the end might put up a bigger threat. Like, I get it. I get the fight. I don't know if we do it. I don't know. Belus' father is good, but another show did it decently well, and Andreas is cool, but I think him versus Asgore is probably the big one we'd do if we were going to do Andreas, even though I'd rather just talk about one of the main trio of Amphibia, like Sasha or Anne or Marcy. It's kind of the same thing with Owl House, but to a lesser extent. Like, I think Amity would be fun to talk about.
That's fair.
Raoh versus
Arl. I mean,
this is definitely
this is definitely the most interesting idea for both of them, I think. Personal vendetta against Toho aside, but I wouldn't be opposed to this.
Yeah, I think Puyo Puyo would be fun. Obviously, we're talking about Tetris, and Puyo Puyo also kind of extends to that. But I think it'd be fun to talk about Puyo Puyo specifically. And we've had a lot of fucking Arl requests, not even just like from the server or like the wider community, like in our own team. But a lot of Arl. People really want Arl. I think Arl versus Bomberman was one of the old vote options we had when me and Dormanos were doing it. So yeah, I definitely think it's about time we talk about Arl soon. Raoh, I think would be cool. Miku versus Carmen the Frog. We were gonna do this, it didn't work out. But I do like the
not super
idea.
Passionate about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like the idea. I think it'd be a fun, like, if we had the resources to really do like a huge like track on it, I think that'd be kind of cool. Mixing Vocaloid and Muppets like themes, I guess. But I also think it'd be kind of hard to do. Just general like resource wise, just seems like a lot to handle. But I do like the matchup. I think it'd be cool. We definitely want to talk about the Muppets. I think that's been established.
Pomni versus Nico. What the fuck are we going to talk about for Pomni?
Pomni's show isn't over. I know I was earlier, I was like, oh, Deltarune. We can talk about Deltarune, and that's not over. But I think Deltarune, like, being an RPG, has a lot of shit to talk about, even in spite of it not being finished. Fucking... Pomni hasn't fucking done anything in Digital Circus. She doesn't have, like, an arsenal or anything. I don't even know if
Digital Circus isn't the type of show that begets versus stuff, really.
Yeah, and it's also like I don't even know if you can argue they have traditional like durability in Digital Circus. Like Kane's probably the most, like, versus applicable character they have right now, but we don't even know his fucking limits right now. So I don't know. It sounds very difficult. One Shot I know just because she's in Indie Cross, but I think it'd be cool. Talk about One Shot. I probably should play One Shot. Yeah, no, I think I'm good about talking about Pop. You know, the one for Pomni's Pippi, but you know, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not ready for that conversation. The world's not ready.
Monkey Kid versus Don Momotaro.
It's interesting. I think the comparison of like stories inspired by Journey to the West and The Legend of Momotaro in general is an interesting comparison. Avataro Sentai Dawn Brothers is definitely one of the most unique Sentai seasons to talk about. And believe you me, we're going to talk about Toei Tokusatsu on this show at some point. Kamen Rider Sentai, something's getting on here eventually. I don't know if it'll be Dawn Brothers. I guess time will tell. But I don't think this is a bad shout.
This is cool. Monkey Kid's cool. I really should probably watch it. It's fucking just hard to track down. I don't even know where the fuck you can watch it because it's like nowhere. But yeah, it looks cool. I don't know either character. So, the only characters banned from Mobile Gods. Yeah, Sonichu's banned. Wink, wink. I forgot the guy on the left's name anyway. So we're not doing it. Obviously, they're banned. Revy versus
Dr.
Spike.
Boomer. Oh boy, are you gonna get flamed for that once we scroll down a little more.
Oh god, Revy versus Spike. DJ really likes this one. I know that.
Yeah. Also, Black Lagoon's making a comeback, so it'll be relevant again. That said, I really, really like Revy versus Jigen from Lupin the Third.
That sounds kind of cool. From what I know.
I think that matchup super cool. They're gunslingers born and raised in the Bronx amongst crime syndicates. Now they work for a more prolific crime group. Chronic chain smokers, potentially a little bigoted, but you know, everybody's got their flaws. But no, I think in general it's a cool matchup. I would like to do Revy versus Jigen because I know no other fucking versus show is going to.
It. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I really like Revy Spike, even though I haven't interacted with either series. I watched the first episode of Cowboy Bebop because I know the GGM created like a little watch party for it, and a bunch of other stuff. So I definitely want to get more into Spike. And
Cowboy Bebop's definitely a show I appreciate more than I like, where it's like, yeah, this is eye candy for like all of it. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool like vibes going on here, like aesthetics. There's a lot of fun characters in this story. It's just not super up my alley.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the other bigger issue is that like DJ, I think this is DJ's most wanted like idea on Death Battle in general. So I feel like he's just gonna fucking do it eventually.
Yeah, sure.
So at this point, like, why would we do it? It's a cool matchup. Just let fucking DJ get to it on Death Battle at some point. He'd fucking cook. So I trust DJ more than us. I know you're gonna rip this one a new fucking asshole.
See, the thing is, tell me you don't know the characters of these franchises without telling me you don't know the characters. So, Ethan Winters, for the people not initiated in Resident Evil, if I recall correctly, the whole reason that he goes into the story and goes into this creepy fucking monster place is to save his kid.
Well, that's in Village. So yeah, in Village he does that. In the 7, which is before Village, he goes in there to save his wife.
Now, while James doesn't really go to save his wife, he goes there because he has a vague feeling his wife would want him to. And spoilers for Silent Hill 2, I guess. Like, this game's been out for fucking ever.
If you have not played Silent Hill 2 by this point, you're doing yourself a disservice, so you should fucking play that.
Go play the remake. The remake's pretty fucking good.
Pretty good.
James kind of probably killed his wife. So
no, not probably. Kinda. He absolutely did. He absolutely.
Probably kind of implied to in Minecraft allegedly killed his wife.
Yeah.
Definitely the opposite of saving him. If we want to talk about a game, or if we want to talk about a dude who goes into a creepy, scary fucking monster place to save their child, Harry Mason,
Harry
the protagonist
Mason from the first one,
of Silent
so-
Hill 1, makes way more sense for this. That
Yeah.
said, these are just normal ass fucking jabroni dudes. There's not like a lot interesting to talk about. I guess the comparison of like the type of creatures they encounter is neat, but in general, if you're talking about Silent Hill, you're talking about a creature that debatably does not exist, or you're talking about a completely normal person. And if you're talking about Resident Evil, Ethan Winters has to be one of the least interesting choices you can pick.
Yeah. For reference, I actually, when you brought up Harry, I actually really liked for a while Ethan versus Harry. I thought that was a good idea. But then, I think talking about it more with you and other people who really like Silent Hill, I love Silent Hill. And I think it's fun to talk about in general. In a versus context, it is very weird, and it's kind of insensitive, like the actual, like Silent Hill 2 specifically. Like, I don't think you can talk about James without being kind of very disinsensitive, because in a versus analysis, you're mainly focusing on like what they can do. Not only is James Sunderland kind of an asshole, and like it's very disinsensitive to use him in a versus context, but it's also he doesn't fucking do that much. And Ethan isn't that interesting, even if he has like a lot more crazy stuff. Like Village gives us some weird stuff with him being made of mold. But it's like, it's weird. I get.
Big fucking whoop! I made a mold too.
I don't even get the comparison, to be honest. But even then, I like Silent Hill versus Resident Evil as a concept, but none of the matchups really work. And I also just
that's why we're gonna do it as a rap battle. We're going to have Silent Hill versus Resident Evil rap battle, where different characters start coming in.
Yeah.
Watch out for 2027 rap of battles.
Realm of raps. Moving on.
Yep.
Mario Kun versus Fleetway Sonic. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah, we did. Well, if you'll notice, when this was made in response to the head.
Oh well, yeah. I guess we like it. I don't know. I don't give a fuck about Fleetway Sonic. Mario Kun sounds interesting.
What? But he's fucked up and evil.
Shut up. Chris versus the Batter. I made this thumbnail. Not so fucking subtle, Freddy. Go back to your fucking failing pizzeria, you fucking asshole. Steal my thumbnail.
Oh, what's this beneath it?
Anyway.
What is this?
I'm not even gonna look. I'm not even gonna bother looking in a minute. Chris is probably the Deltarune character we talk about. Batter's cool. Definitely. I feel like this one would be interesting just because Off is getting like a remake, and obviously Deltarune has 4 chapters now. So I think it'd be interesting to talk about. But I know D-Light animated this for something, I think. So probably not gonna be us to do it, but I think Chris will be fun. Yeah. We're ending it off on Cell versus Metal Sonic.
No.
Fan Battle did it. Yeah, y'all asking the wrong people.
Well, even if Fan Battle didn't do it, I think the matchup is kind of fucking lame anyway. Like, I get the comparison, I really do, and I do like Metal Sonic. I like Cell well enough. This may seem sacrilegious as the guy who was Cell during the Lobo film incident. Cell's kind of fucking overrated, I can't lie. Cell's probably the most overrated Dragon Ball villain there is. But that's coming from, like, the #1 Frieza fan as well. This matchup's just also, like... Okay, so say you only use base Metal Sonic, you scale him to Classic Sonic. Cool, Cell kicks his ass and it's not close. If you use any version of Metal Sonic that scales to modern Sonic, especially one that can just go Super Saiyan, like go Super mode, like Super Neo Metal Sonic, or if you use Metal Overlord, Cell is so fucking cooked. It's not a comparison.
Yeah. I think Metal Sonic's cool. I've grown more, and I like Cell, obviously, but I think both would be cool. The Metal Sonic, I don't really think needs a... Metal Sonic's in Bowser versus Eggman, y'all. He gets really fucking cool moments in that. Do we really need a whole Metal Sonic fight to himself? But even then, like, I don't know. I think there's more interesting stuff for both series and both characters.
This fucking influx of submissions when we say...
Okay, we're gonna do a rapid round. We're gonna do a rapid round, and then we're done. Nico D'Angelo versus Megami Fushiguro. I like Megami. I've not interacted with Percy Jackson.
I read the 3 or 4 main books of Percy Jackson back in, like, middle school. There was not a character named Nico D'Angelo. You made that up. No, I vaguely remember him. Doesn't sound that interesting. Megumi's got to be one of the like fucking lamest JJK characters to use in a versus setting because like everything potentially we could have learned about what he's able to do, he never did.
He got taken from him by fucking Sukuna. Buddy Cop BR. 21 Jump Street. I see that one. I don't know the other ones.
21. Top left is Rush Hour. Top right is Lethal Weapon. Bottom left is 21 Jump Street. Bottom right is Bad Boys. I see the comparison. I actually own all 4 Lethal Weapon films on VHS of all things. I wouldn't be opposed to doing a buddy cop like 2v2. I don't know about a Royale.
Yeah, 8 characters, resource-wise, that would put me in, like... That would put my wallet deep into the Earth's fucking service. I would have nothing in there.
Yeah, but if you want to fund it and make it happen, subscribe to our Patreon.
Subscribe to our Patreon.
I definitely would not be opposed to a buddy cop matchup someday, though. That is
fun.
Sounds potentially fun.
Roblox versus Gmod.
Roblox versus Gmod.
No. How do we
inconceivable?
How do we even fucking research this? They have so much fan media. We can't research all of Roblox.
Shaq versus LeBron James. Shaq Fu versus Space Jam. Fuck no. And then Vile versus Metal Sonic.
No. That's it. Thank you. Fucking good matchups, y'all. I know Hector has to go for something else, so we're gonna wrap it up. Finally, it's been fucking. Has it been no? It's not been 2 hours yet. It feels like it's almost been 2 hours. It is. It has been almost 2 hours.
4 years.
4 years. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We should have a. We should have a normal fucking podcast like debate next week, but until then, thank you all for joining us for this goated fucking podcast. Bye bye.
Bye bye.